Have you walked down car lots of Dodge, Chrysler, Jeep, and Ram? I have. The prices are getting out of control, and it reflects. Customers are actually responding. Customers are seeing the fact that prices are continually rising. How about the new tungsten Dodge Ram 1500 that's coming out in 25 promises to be a further escalation of the prices? Clearly, they are not listening. And clearly, also, people are just getting outright frustrated. Cost of living is on the climb. Speaking of cost of living, I think about many years ago, my dad, he bought his first house. He paid $24,000 for it. At the time, he was making 30 grand a year. He was in construction, a foreman. He was all good there. So that was about a year's salary to pay for your house. Now, we know incidentals and other costs, but what that translates to is today, the average cost of a house here is about $500,000, which is probably one of the lower cost places in Canada. And at $500,000, I'll tell you what, there's not many people I know that are making 500 grand to kind of make cost of living versus, what you're generating your income. So people are not making what they make. And no, cost of living and inflation, it all ties together in one big ball. But at 3 to 4% year over year, some of these car dealers, and particularly Stellantis, Jeep, Ram, Chrysler, they are literally out of control. I mean, look at prices on some of these latest Jeeps. See, it's a little bit more dressed up. And this one here is a Compass Altitude 4x4. And this one is listed at $47,260. Wow, 50 grand plus extras plus taxes. And even Rams have going up, as I said, tungsten. And they had also made some price adjustments in recent weeks. With enough backlash and enough squawking by customers, they finally decided to retract that. Jeep, Ram, Chrysler, Stellantis in general, as the overarching brethren, is actually decided to sort of slow down, halt some of the actual price increases that they've been seeing. But Rams, you got half ton, 3/4, you've got 4x4 bighorns like this. Unfortunately, we're still seeing the fact that people have refused to buy this product. They're not good with paying $40,000, $50,000 for a Jeep Compass. This might represent that price tag. Well, let's take a look here. Compass North 4x4. And we have a price tag of $41,590. They're not good at paying $100,000 for a Dodge Ram. Chrysler products are phasing away. They're not really holding their own. And not only on top of that, Challengers, Chargers, we know that's going to be a flop. In my personal opinion, going electrified, that is going to hurt the brand. So people are just fed up. They've had enough. They don't have the money to spend. They're just looking to spend $1 to put a loaf of bread in their mouth. I mean, literally, if some of these federal leaders could probably fit the whole loaf in their mouth, but that's besides the point. The point that I'm trying to make is people are making decisions and they're responding by not buying. And how do you know they're not buying? Well, let's just say the industry average right now for days on the lot. So the average car time frame that vehicle sits. So the vehicle comes in off a truck, they unload it, they check it in, shuffle the paperwork, it sits about 72 days. Toyota Hondas are a little bit less, but would you believe it? The worst offenders, the Jeep, Ram, Chrysler, Dodge products, are sitting at about double the industry average and by far more than anybody else. And they're sitting right now at about 152 days on the lot. Right. 5 months or more. You're sitting there basically talking about half a year's time before that vehicle moves on. I've even seen vehicles 22 brand new old stock, if you will, NOS, 22 model years sitting out that they just couldn't sell from 2 years ago now. I see plenty of 23s and they're trying to incentivize, but people are not having it. Now the 24s are coming out, still not having it because prices keep creeping up. And sure, there's incentives, but people see this as a little bit of an insult, quite frankly, when what you have is a scenario of these increases that vehicles have gone up 40 to 50% in the last 3 years. And now these manufacturers want to offer you $1,000 rebate or, $2,500 cash back or, 3.8% financing for 3 years. And most people can't afford those payments because they're usually $1,200 or $1,500 a month. So that applies to very few people. Clearly, people are just not there in a good spot. Let me share another story. A good old uncle of mine, unfortunately, God rest his soul, he's not with us anymore. Very, very smart man. He comes from a farming background and he knew how to manage his money. You would never know that he was wealthy because why? He wore his same blue jeans. He had a button-up shirt. He looked like, your typical farmer, working class farmer, which we come from, farming background. And I'm very proud to say that. That's the fundamental, the backbone. Construction and farming is what built these countries and made them what they are today. However, great person. And he was never that guy that was driving the flashiest truck. He comes from a farming background. He always drove and tried to get the extension out of the life of any vehicle he drove. As a matter of fact, to his last days, he even drove himself a Ford Ranger just because it was an affordable vehicle. A friend of his didn't need it anymore, sold it to him for a song and a dance, and that's all he needed. He didn't need the biggest jacked up diesel pickup truck. He literally wanted something that was cheap and dirty. This gentleman had everything going on, but you'd never know it. And he was okay with that. And my dad was the same thing. The situation where he bought himself, a 1993 Ram. When that generation came, they bulbous sort of fenders, and the Ram came out. Well, let me tell you, he drove that truck till the bitter end. It had something like 400,000 kilometers on it. It was starting to rust a little bit in the rear fenders, but it had that good old 318 V8, one of their best workhorse engines, and he drove it till the literal wheels fall off. And we basically eventually sold it to another member of our family who just needed something beater at that point. But quite frankly, people are starting to make those decisions. You can repair an engine. I too also drive a 2003 Ram. Now it's a rear wheel drive. That's the only thing. It's kind of hard in Canadian winters, but we're making do. It's crew cab. It's got the V8, the 4.7. It's not the best configuration, but it starts and goes and gets me around. I can tow the boat. It does everything I need it to do. And guess what? If the engine blows up, I can drop a new crate engine in there for $6,000. Well, $6,000 on the top of this value of this vehicle. What's the vehicle worth? $10,000 right now because it's in fairly clean shape. Throw another $5,000. That's $15,000 of equity. That truck's paid off. I don't own anybody anything. As opposed to walking in, even buy that base model, entry-level, entry Dodge Ram right now, $1,500, it's going to cost us $60,000 plus costs. You're at $70,000 out the door. So instead of spending $70,000, I drop a new engine. Now I'm into it for $15,000. We're good. Far cry, right? And it still looks good, still goes good. So I have no problems in continually fixing my old vehicles. And clearly people are starting to take that, making that decision. And while, yeah, there's always those that want to buy that brand new shiny truck, and sure, absolutely, if you have the means and you're not going to go upside down on your mortgage or your loans, and you can afford it, honestly, go for it. We only live once, but the flip side is, why would you want to throw all your hard-earned dollars, particularly after you have to borrow the full amount from the bank at interest rates that might be 10, 12, 15%, or even subprime up to 20% plus? Why would you want to be in that where you're negative equity, you're pumping money into a dying asset, depreciation is destroying what's left of the value, and then you come out on the other end after 8 years, there's, it's only worth $20,000, it's worn out. Yeah, so you can fix it, continually fix it, but by that time you put $120,000, $130,000 with interest charges into that vehicle, and that's what you got left is a 200,000 mile worn out pickup truck. So people are starting to make these hard decisions in life about, we just need something affordable. We need to get back down to basics. And sadly, Ram, they're a little bit disconnected from reality. The Dodge Hornet, not a great seller. They say it's affordable. It's a peppy little ride. I walked into the dealership the other day and I saw one and absolutely was blown away by the pricing. I don't even need to say. Go check for yourself. The Durango is the only other Dodge product right now.
Throughout here, look at all these vehicles. Look at all these Challengers, Chargers. We have all these vehicles, all of those. Oh, look at that. That's a little Tenali with a Dodge badge on it. And look, we have all of these Durangos here, clearly not selling either. And over here, look, more Jeeps. We have Jeeps, Grand Cherokees. We have more Grand Cherokees, Durangos, Wranglers, and even more down here. Another Wrangler.
Used to have a Durango, but have you seen the prices today compared to the old Durangos? We had one of the older versions that actually had, I believe it was a 2001, 2002, had the 4.7. It was a great little truck. It wasn't a garbage unibody. It was definitely on a steel frame, pickup truck suspension. And I love that V8, a great unit, had lots of room. We had the third row seating. They were cheap flip down seats, but it worked. I love that truck. My wife loved that truck. And quite frankly, if we could do that all over again, we ended up trading that in for, at the time, see, we all learn our lessons for a Mercedes ML SUV with the V8. Honestly, a year in, and my wife decided, no, we should have kept the Durango. We figured that was an upgrade, but actually it was a downgrade. From retrospectively speaking, the Dodge was a better product. Now, with that said, clearly people are in a world of hurt right now. What we don't need are these OEMs and manufacturers continually clawing away at your checkbooks. We don't need continually increases in prices.
There's no wonder you see Rams all over the lot like this. These vehicles don't come cheap. This Wagoneer here, let's take a quick look. $139,000, that's crazy. What about the Grand Cherokee? $75,000. Yeah, and this is a limited 4x4, but that is limiting, all right, financially for the buyer.
What we do need is not this $1,500 incentive off, not these small little incentives and these interest rate charges that, kind of try to draw you in. We don't need that silliness. What we need is 30% off. If you're saying this new Ram is costing $90,000 because it's fully decked out, maybe call it 60 grand, fully decked out Ram. Or maybe it's the base model at, $50,000, and maybe we can get that vehicle for, I don't know, how about $35,000? Let's get back down to brass tacks, folks, because people are looking for a break. We're not getting break on taxes. We're not getting breaks on cost of living. Inflation is still at an all-time high. Where's the inflation coming from? And as long as those interest charges from the bank, the reserves, as well as Bank of Canada, as long as they're holding high, we're not going to get that relief on lending and borrowing and cars and trucks and houses and large ticket items. No, conversely, they're going to hold those rates. But we're spending because we're spending on the core fundamentals, rent, mortgages, just to live. So it's maintaining that high spending rate. And of course, they see this as inflation. And naturally, it's almost like the chicken or the egg, and we're stuck here with the egg and it won't hatch. So this is the unfortunate turn of events that we're all in. And this is going to be a really tricky time. So what I would suggest personally, batten down the hatches. Yes, if you have the money to go buy a brand new vehicle with huge amount deposit down and you're not paying much interest charges and you have the cash, hey, go for it. But if you're in a stickle, like a lot of us, in Canada, United States, where you don't necessarily have all that expendable cash, fix what you've got. That's what I'm doing. I'm trying to keep my old 2003 Ram go as long as I can. Right now, it's got a little over 100,000 miles on it. It still goes good. There's nothing wrong with it. I'm going to keep running it. Sure, it doesn't have the fancy big screen in the middle. Instead, I've got the center flip console, but I can get 3 in the front, 3 in the back. It hauls 6 people. A lot of the modern trucks don't even do that. An easy truck to live with. The costs are relatively low. All I gotta do is put gas in. It's not the most efficient. Hey, it works for me. What are you all folks gonna do? Are you gonna take the stance of, I'm looking for the next deal, I'm just gonna pay whatever it takes from the new car dealers? Or in fact, you know what? That's a good point. I'm going to save myself those interest charges and those payments, and I'm going to continue driving as long as I can with what I've got. I don't know. I'd love to hear it in the comment section below by all of you. And in light of this, you're definitely going to want to see that Stellantis and Jeep literally panic. And what does the CEO have to say about it? Hope to see each and every one of you on the next one. We'll see you all real soon. Bye-bye.